Hey guys, Andy Stacks here. This is a continuation of the Mystery Bounty event I played at the APTC in Taipei. If you missed the previous video, you can go back later to watch the previous episode on my channel anytime. So let's jump right into the next set of hands where I'll be continuing to break down some key decisions. The blinds at this point were 700, 1400. I had just lost a big pot and I'm in the big blind with ace jack of clubs. I have about 12 big blinds left. The player to my left under the gun, open shove all in for 20,000, which just barely covers me. I had just saw this player lose a big hand right before this one, losing the majority of his chips. And with the big blind being his next hand, he could be shoving here quite wide. Everybody quickly folds. If someone had called in front of me in earlier position, my decision would be a lot tougher. But I think with ace jack suited, closing the action, my hand's too strong to pass up. So I go ahead and make the call, and I'm very delighted to see him turn over ace-9 offsuit. Luckily for me, there was no sweat at all when the flop came ace-jack-6, turn 8, river 5. So I got a much needed double up. In this next hand, everybody folds to me in the small blind and I wake up with pocket queens. I haven't had too much history with the player in the big blind, but he did have me covered, and in case he did decide to go for a raise, I thought this was a good spot to balance my calling range from the small blind. So I go ahead and just called 700. But unfortunately, he does check back. Flop comes jack 7-8 rainbow. A pretty coordinated board. Hits his check back range quite a bit. If he has any 9, any 10 in his hand, he has a gut shot. I go ahead and start betting for value, 1400. And he does make the call for 1400. The turn is the ace of spades. And I think I reacted a little bit too quickly here by checking. Obviously the ace is not a great card when I'm holding pocket queens, but now thinking about this hand, the ace is not going to hit his range that often. Unless he had a hand like ace-7, ace-8 that checked back pre-flop, I'm actually going to have a lot more aces in my range. And so I think continuing to bet small, trying to extract value from worse hands, makes more sense than checking, giving him a free river. He does check back, and the river comes the ace of diamonds. I think this river is a really good card for me because it pairs the board, and now if he has any jack, it's going to be really hard for him to find a fold. I think just in general, players are less likely to give you credit and more likely to call down with a pair when there's already a pair on the board. I decided to go for 5,300, and after some thought, he makes the call. It's nice to take down a sizable pot in this limped small blind versus big blind hand. This next hand is a crazy one. The blinds are now 1,000, 1,500, 1,500. I'm on the button and look down at ace-king offsuit. Under the gun +2 opens to 3,000. The low jack calls 3,000. And now I have a very easy 3-bet. In position, on the button, I have to punish these guys. Can't let them see the flop for cheap. I go ahead and 3-bet to 11,000. The original raiser folds, but the low jack calls the additional 8,000. The flop comes ace, king, 6 with 2 spades. I have the king of spades in my hand, and he checks. This board smashes both my hand and my range. At the time I thought he's not going to have too many hands that can continue on this board. I went ahead and sized down and went for 5,500 and was pretty happy to see him call the 5,500. The turn was the king of clubs, and now my hand just got upgraded to a full house. Obviously this is a great card for my actual hand, but at the time I thought this is not the best card to try to get all the chips in the middle by the river, because if he has a hand like a smaller ace, it's going to be hard for him to continue if I continue betting both turn and river. And it's unlikely he has a king since I have a king in my hand, so the only combos of kings left would be a hand like king 10 of diamonds, king jack of diamonds, king queen of diamonds, but that's not many combos. So I decided to go for a smaller bet again of 8,000 into 40,000. But was very surprised when he thought about it for a while and then put me all in. Obviously I snap call and he turns over pocket 6s. So I got extremely lucky here on the turn and saw that I was actually way behind on the flop. The river came an inconsequential 7 of clubs and once again got a full double up. No matter how I played this hand, the result would have been the same. The hand kind of just played itself. But I think it's important to remember the times like this when we were on the right end of these crazy coolers, so that the next time we're on the wrong end, we're able to retain our perspective and not get too upset when a similar situation happens and we're on the wrong end of it. In this next hand, I'm under the gun and I look down at king queen offsuit. I decide to raise to 3,000 and the player to my left 3-bets me to 8,000. He's actually a new player who just sat down and replaced the guy that just busted out. everybody folds, and I think with a hand like king queen offsuit, it's rarely a good idea to call. I actually think we can fold a lot of other hands that are even stronger than king queen, just because of the fact that this player had just got moved to our table, has no information on any of the players, and decides to 3-bet their very first hand. I just don't see many players getting out of line like this, so I do fold this one pretty quickly, and my plan is to try to gather some more information about this player. In this next hand, the blinds are now 1,000, 2,000. I'm under the gun again, and I look down at ace 4 of spades. I go ahead and raise it to 4,000, and it folds to the button, who calls 4,000. This is the same player that I had just coolered earlier with ace king when he had pocket sixes. The flop comes 6, queen, jack with 2 spades. So I flop the nut flush draw with a backdoor straight draw and an overcard. I go ahead and make a c-bet of 3,500, and he calls pretty quickly. The turn is the deuce of spades, so I turn the nut flush. I'm really running well against this player. Here I decided to check. My thought process was that if he had a hand like 9-10, king 10, ace 10, all these hands that are drawn to a straight, he might choose to start bluffing now if I check, whereas if I bet, he might just fold. Also, if he has a hand like top pair, he might feel compelled to make a protection bet since there's a third spade on the board, and he might not want to see another spade on the river. But after I checked, he decides to check back. The river is the 7 of clubs, and I decided to go for a 3/4 pot size bet, trying to get called by either a queen or a jack that pot controlled the turn. He thought about it for a while and does eventually put in the call, and shows ace jack, so he had middle pair. And now seeing his hand, I think by checking the turn, I probably got paid the maximum. I don't think his hand is strong enough to call turn and call river. Another very big hand for me. This time I'm going to cut off with ace of diamonds, ace of clubs. This time the low jack, who is another player that just got moved to our table, raises to 4,000. The hijack calls 4,000, and this is just really a dream scenario. I 3-bet to 15,000. The low jack doesn't think very long and 4-bets all in for 59,500. The hijack folds, again I snap call, and he shows pocket jacks. The flop does all the work for me and comes 7-7 ace, so I flop top boat and he's drawing nearly dead. I think with his stack size of about 30 big blinds, there's really nothing he could do, especially after there's a call in the middle from the hijack. Because if he calls, then he's inviting the hijack to also call as well, and his hand is really hard to play out of position 3-way. After that player busts, our table breaks, and all of us get assigned to new tables. So a couple of very, very lucky hands for me, and my stack is now up to about 171k after that one, which is about 85 big blinds. But it's still pretty early in day one, and there's still a long way to go. We'll continue next time in the next one, starting at the 1,000, 2,500 blind level. As always, let me know your thoughts on any of these hands today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.
喜欢我的影片，不要忘记按赞、订阅、打开小铃铛。